OPPO has just announced the new devices in its high-end series. We are talking about Find X8 and Find X8 Pro. These two models have been presented in China, although immediately after their launch in China, they have confirmed that they will have a global launch. Although they have not set any specific date, but in an official publication of their social networks, they have indicated that it will soon be available and only point out November of the year. It seems that this time there will not be so much time difference between the China launch and the global launch. So let me tell you the specifications of each of these models because they are slightly different proposals in some aspects, but share many others. The clearest difference will be the size, since in the OPPO Find X8 we are talking about a 6.59-inch display. Previously, it was said that it was going to be a very compact model, but honestly, it doesn't seem to be as compact as we expected. Still, it is a very good display with 1.5K resolution, capable of varying its refresh rate from 1 to 120 Hz with a peak brightness of 4500 nits. And what OPPO boasts most about this device is that its bezels are 1.45mm completely symmetrical. So it has a very nice look because the vast majority of the front is occupied by the screen. On the other hand, the Pro model is a bit larger, coming in at 6.78 inches with a 1.5K resolution, just like its smaller sibling. This screen was manufactured by BOE, and in both cases they support Dolby Vision. And apparently they have a special glass protection manufactured by OPPO. And in the case of the Pro model, we see a screen that they have decided to call micro-curved, as it has 4 curves both on the sides and on the top and bottom. Only it is a curvature that is not really reached to be perceived as the edge screens that were seen in previous models. However, when you slide your finger, you do get to perceive this type of small curves. This is only available for the Pro model, as the base model has a completely flat screen. The aluminum frames of the base model are also completely straight, while in the Pro model we see a little more curves to improve grip. In both cases we see the MediaTek Dimensity 9000 processor, which is an exaggeratedly powerful processor, and it also comes with a tremendous vapor chamber to help cool this processor. In both cases we see available the new version of Color OS, based on Android 15, where we will find very good new features at the aesthetic level and also some other artificial intelligence novelties. Although we will have to wait for the global launch to know if they will adapt some features or how it will work. But it is a fact that artificial intelligence will be the protagonist. But of the things that attract the most attention in OPPO devices lately, without a doubt, are the cameras. So let me tell you about this. The base model has 3 cameras. The main camera is a 50 megapixel one with a Sony Lithia 700 sensor. Then we find a 50 megapixel ultra-wide camera as well. And finally a periscope camera with optical zoom 3x, also of 50 megapixels. Remember that OPPO generally clarifies that they do not have a main camera, but they have 3 main cameras, making a reference to the fact that they use very good quality sensors that generally other manufacturers also use in their main cameras. Only OPPO in all 3 cameras has good quality sensors, unlike what other brands do with 1 good quality sensor and the rest of the sensors simpler. On the other hand, the Pro model adds a second periscope camera to achieve 6x optical zoom with a Sony Lithia 808 sensor to improve performance in low light conditions. Another thing to note is that the ultra-wide camera has autofocus to also function as a macro camera. So in both models we see very good capabilities to offer a lot of versatility in different photography scenarios. However, the Pro model goes for a much more aggressive zoom. In fact, remember that they can zoom inside the sensor to be able to give you very good quality, even up to over 135 millimeters. The ultra-wide camera in both models has an ISOCELL JN5 sensor and the lens has f2.0 point aperture. While in the camera that we consider as the main camera, we see a difference also between one model and the other. The base model has a focal length of 24 millimeters, while the Pro model is 23 millimeters. A small difference, so one is slightly closer than the other, but there is also a difference in aperture, with the base model having f1.8 aperture and the Pro model f1.6 with a larger light intake. Plus the sensor that the Pro model has is larger and therefore captures more illumination. However, the first periscope lens is exactly the same, both in the Pro model and in the base model. We are talking about a lens with f2.6 aperture and optical stabilization, while the aperture of the 135mm lens that the Pro model has is f4.3. And as you can see in the official images and videos released by the brand, this device seems to have a camera module that does not protrude as much as several Chinese manufacturers have been accustomed to lately. In fact, they have a thickness of 7.85 and 8.24 millimeters respectively. So in both cases, we will find very stylish devices. Also remember that they have Hypertone, which is this image engine that OPPO has developed, which has given very good results since past generations. So in this case, it is still present in conjunction with various artificial intelligence tools for photo editing. But I repeat that in this aspect, we will have to wait for the global launch to confirm if all will remain present or not. Regarding the batteries, the base model has a capacity of 5,630 mAh, while the Pro model goes up to 5,910. It is incredible that in such thin devices, they have managed to place batteries of such a capacity. Undoubtedly, this is something that users will be very grateful for. And in this case, they support 80 watts of charging. They also support wireless charging of 50 watts, and in this case, OPPO has also announced special cases so you can use MagSafe accessories. In addition to that, they also support 10 watts reversible wireless charging. These devices include IP68 and IP69 level of resistance against water and dust, so not only can they be submerged 5 feet deep for quite some time, but they can even withstand jets of hot water and being in a lot of steam. So they have an assured durability. In both cases, they incorporate fingerprint reader inside the screen, stereo sound, support for Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4 and NFC. And something curious is that the Pro model has a button for the camera located on the side, which we could say is similar to what Apple has done, but we'll have to wait to meet it in person to see if it's really going to be useful or not. Because in the case of the iPhone, personally, I found it completely useless, and even in many cases, it gets in the way. So let's see if OPPO does a better or equal job. There will be several colors available on these devices, and they start from 12 GB of RAM with 256 GB of storage. But they have editions up to 16 GB of RAM with up to a terabyte of storage on the Pro model. So the most basic model has an announced China price of 4,199 yuan. But remember very well that the prices here are not the same as over there. On the other hand, the simplest configuration of the Pro model is priced at 5,299 yuan. That is $744. Now we will have to wait until November, although November is just a few days away. But we do not know on what day in November OPPO will make the global announcement of these devices. And we also do not know if it will arrive in Mexico and other regions.